In 2013, just over 10 years ago, it was considered a meal if you gave kids cream cheese with their bagels. And now we're like, how many millions of dollars can we give the quarterback?
All right, I'm here with Laura Schott today, a friend, realtor, former professional soccer player, now former collegiate, collegiate coach for soccer. So let's just dive into like NIL, college sports, your experience. Obviously, you just got out of it. Do you want to walk through why maybe you got out of it, some of the influences, and then your overall experience with NIL, especially at D3, if that's the level?
Yeah, I mean, starting with not coaching, this is the first time I haven't been involved in um, collegiate soccer or directing soccer clubs really since I got out of playing professionally. So, and then if you go back, I mean, before that I was playing at Cal, so it's been a long run. It's it already has been a shift in terms of just where I spend my time and the mind space I have spent on other people in the soccer world, and young kids becoming young adults in that space, helping them move forward. But it's yeah, it's different. But there's so many changes going on with the NCAA that at some points it almost seems unrecognizable
Yeah.
from what it was when I was a player, and even 10 years ago and now. One thing I like to say that I think describes it really well is that in 2013, so just over 10 years ago, it was considered a meal if you gave kids cream cheese with their bagels. And now we're like, how many millions of dollars can we give the quarterbacks? So in that amount of time, or even a little bit less, right? You're going from, yeah, we can't give kids meals, they're amateurs. We have to protect amateurism, or if they're gonna transfer, they have to sit a year and they have to have a conversation with their coach and they have to be released by the school. You've gone from one extreme, which I'm not advocating for, but I'm just, I guess, describing the vast difference between we can't give you a meal to, okay, you can give them meals to, we're using your name and likeness, and the legislation that passed, and the lawsuits that occurred, to now it's just the Wild West.
Yeah. Well, so okay, what time frame were you a player at Cal? And
Sure.
and then when did you get into coaching? And like just to describe both of those pictures.
Yeah, it's been a long time now. I'm not young anymore. I was at Cal uh, through 2004, and then
Scorer at Cal, by the way. No.
fun stat. And I then played professionally. Um, that was the last year of the first professional league. So now we're in the NWSL, which started in 2013 and has, grown a lot and is doing extremely well, which we're all super thankful for. But that league folded, a second league folded, and now we're in the third league. When that league folded, I went into, actually, I went back and finished college. And then I went into coaching, came back home and started at Portland State. So, um, started at Portland State when I was 26. No, that's when I started head coaching. I started at Portland State when I was 23.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think it was 23. And then by 26, I was head coaching there. And then I was there for 12 years, left there in 2017, directed clubs, been involved in various things, obviously, in the soccer world, and then spent time at George Fox. We had some of the best years George Fox has ever had at Division III. That was a lot of fun, a lot of good people there. And then left there and full-time real estate.
So what was the time frame that you started at George Fox?
Well, that's a funny story, actually, because I started coaching at George Fox the week that COVID hit.
Okay.
Oh, it was quite the start. Yeah, no, it was, thankfully I had gone early and I was, doing all the things you do and getting your computer and getting all your stuff sorted out that you do when you start a position. And I had done that early. So then I started on a Monday. By Wednesday, there was talk of what's going on. We had a team that was in the NCAA tournament in the Sweet 16, the women's basketball team at the time. So my first week, that was kind of what was going on in the landscape of that department. And by Friday, I was having an emergency meeting with the team that I hadn't really formally met with yet, saying, I don't know when I'm going to see you or what's going on, because none of us did. And everybody got sent home. We all did the COVID
Yeah.
situation for as long as we did. And so that was kind of the beginning of that. So that was my first week. Yeah, it was not the way you'd want to start developing your team culture, just by saying, "Hi, I'm here, you're here, we're not going to be here for a while. I'll see you when I see you."
See you next year.
Yeah. Trying to learn names on Zoom and then realizing you've known them for 6 months, but not really, and then trying to figure out who they are in person, which went pretty well. And everybody was really gracious with one another, as a lot of people were during COVID. But then, yeah, through the beginning of 2020 or March 2020, yeah, till recently in December.
Cool. So when you're at Portland State, when you're first coaching, like what's the process? What are the regulations, the rules to recruit someone to like come play for the team versus George Fox, obviously, the NIL and the big changes start to happen. So you want to just walk through what it was like back at Portland State and then what it looked like in your recent tenure?
Sure. When I was at Portland State, while you didn't really sign anything until your senior year, and NLI, the National Letter of Intent, um, you didn't sign until your senior year.
When can you first contact a player in high school?
Well, now it's different. Then, when was it then? Gosh, there were so many workarounds. Now my memory is fuzzy because it's been so long.
Yeah.
It was their junior year. It was the summer of their junior year. And, rules have kind of like worked themselves back around. But at the time, that was the formal time. But the way it was actually working in practice was college coaches would talk to club coaches that would talk to athletes. You can't talk directly to parents because they're considered an extension of the athlete. So that was illegal.
So you could always talk to the coaches and then be like, hey, that sophomore, they're pretty good.
Yep.
And then you just have to wait until junior year to actually talk to the player.
Yeah. So at the time I was there, the way in Portland State, obviously being mid-major, we were very successful there. We did very well. We competed with some of the best teams in the country, and I'm really proud that we scheduled them and competed very well. But if you're looking at, the Big Tens and the ACCs, and at the time the Pac-12s, the kind of the cadence of it was the quote unquote best players would be recruited super early, committing as freshmen, as sophomores. And obviously those schools are kind of, scooping up the top talent. And then as you'd kind of progress through, yeah, there's caveats to it. Yeah, some players wanted to be in different spaces, different schools. But yeah, it would just kind of create a domino effect of, players committing. So they would all commit early, but it was a verbal commitment, but people weren't really breaking them because that wasn't the culture at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then moving into the new era of things, you obviously COVID happens, you get to maybe back to somewhat normal in 2021. Like what's it like to recruit a player then? And then at what point do you start seeing the NIL? Because like, as you described, you can talk to the coach at any time who talks to the player.
Yeah.
But now it's like, either the actual university now or the collective will reach out to either directly to the player or their agent now,
Yeah.
which is kind of the agent takes place as the coach back in that situation.
Right.
And then they're like, hey, we'll give you this much money. So what's all that look like?
I really feel like it's just iterations of different things, right? Whether you're talking to a coach, you're talking to a collective, or you're talking to a representative, or you're talking to your agent, right? It's a constant just exploration of how you can get around the rules and who can get to the talent first. So it sounds like it's a lot different, but it is different, but it's also kind of the same idea. Division III, not really similar to what's happening at Division I, specifically with NIL, and there are certain companies and agencies that are trying to sell NIL to basically, the mass of college athletes. But in women's soccer, most of the athletes that are, really sought after, and there are some that are doing very well with NIL, Division I, top Division I.
And so I recently had a sports agent on that specializes, well, it's a sports marketing firm. And so we talked about like building a brand. Like what shifts have you seen since NIL is such a big thing, name, image, likeness? Like the more followers you have on social media, the more potential you can earn from NIL deals.
Yeah,
So if
great.
you are going to a smaller university, you might be able to get some money out of your brand that you have. Like what did you see on that side of it? And did that kind of clash with the actual on-field stuff?
It filters down in one way or another, from, the most highly recruited athlete all the way through, whatever level, whatever team. Um, things have just changed so much. I mean, the way athletes manage their name, image, and their likeness, that's not something that's specific to a player that is the most highly recruited and highly ranked player. Yeah, those things have filtered down. Those thoughts have filtered down. The way they approach things has filtered through really all of college. Does that mean they're getting that money? No. I mean, obviously, most of that money is still with football and men's basketball, women's basketball, and volleyball, and so on. Softball, women's soccer come down the line, but players are so much more aware and they're so much smarter about managing what they feel their selves, how they should be presented, how their brand should be presented. Those things are very common through the whole thing. But you have to kind of manage it in different ways because I mean, if you've got these athletes that have these opportunities, you want them to take them. But also in taking these opportunities at this point with agents and with where money's coming from and those things, they've been deregulated so quickly that it's kind of like the backstop for where the parameters for this thing. It's just not there yet.
Yeah, so walk me through that, like women's soccer. You mentioned it's a bit down the line. So, I mean, a D3, there's not really a fund for sports. That's all for NIL. Okay,
No.
so
I mean, I shouldn't speak to maybe the the schools that are, winning national championships on a decent clip, but as a whole, no.
I guess how did you see NIL and that shift affect your coaching ability and your recruitment ability?
I mean, really, it's just the change in perception of themselves and how athletes expect to be treated and how they expect, which is not a negative, really. I mean, um, I'd say we've gone from one extreme to where athletes had not a lot of leverage and they couldn't, it was hard to get them things that you felt like you should be able to get or even feel like you should have as an athlete, like a meal, right? You've gone from it's hard to get an athlete that to they can leave a program whenever they want. They don't have to tell their coach and people can pay them and you don't necessarily, I mean, yes, it's supposed to be tracked, but how are you doing that? How well are we doing that? Those things are just like they're unfolding in real time and they seem to change week to week. Somebody's finding a new workaround. Somebody, wants to find another way to get an athlete funds. We're seeing that in NIL. We're seeing that in the transfer portal. Um, you know, after I had a knee surgery in December, and so I was kind of a captive audience as the end of the football season was happening, and I was just like, I mean, just trying to absorb and trying to catch up on some of these things that are happening on the very front end, which is football and men's basketball. I mean, I can't imagine being in the thick of that. It's just happening so rapidly and things are changing so quickly. Like, for example, some of the basketball athletes on the men's and women's side that have been professionals or have been drafted that they're now trying to bring back into the fold and now they can play. I don't know if anybody really saw that coming.
Didn't you have to declare, and then you would like if you declare, then you can't play in college anymore? Is that how it used to be, or has that changed?
It appears to be changing, and I don't know if I mean maybe it's me, maybe I don't have the cutting edge info on that particular thing, but it really seems like from listening to the Caliparis and the coaches that are on the front lines of these things and know more than basically everybody else, that these things are happening so quickly that they're surprised by some of them.
And then you and I were talking about the Damon Williams situation at UW, where he signs a contract, University of Washington, for $4 or $5 million, and then like 3 days later, 4 days later,
Yeah,
it's breaking that he's wanting to enter the transfer portal and go to LSU. Meanwhile, LSU is hosting like one of the top quarterback transfer.
yeah,
And so, and then UW is basically like, we're gonna sue the crap out of you if you
right.
actually try to do this. And so, and then Devon Williams then announces that, oh, I've decided to go to UW because that's where the best development for me is gonna be. Oh yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Um,
There's some sense in some of these situations that everything has become so overly performative from what they're saying to how they're acting and do those things align and they just don't quite seem to be on the same path. Um, those things, my hope is that there are regulations put in place that do cause people's words and actions to fall better in line so that there can be a playing field where people come to this situation where the athlete comes to the point in their lives where they're going to be an NCAA athlete, and that both the school and the collectives and maybe agents, but all the parties involved, the parents, know the rules of the game, and they don't change so rapidly that, it's just changing so fast that it's hard to really tell what those rules are and how to follow them. Not that they'd always be followed. I know there's always people trying to find ways to make things happen. But just so that there's more, I guess, of an understanding of what the rules are to the game.
Yeah. What advice might you have for maybe a coach? You could maybe player, a parent, with like how to navigate everything. Obviously, those are all three different sides or two different sides at
Yeah.
least.
Um, I don't think that my advice has really changed a lot, in terms of I really feel like parents and players, and then, on the other side, coaches, school administrators, they really need the they need their resources and their people that are trusted and have the experience to be trusted. That even though things might be changing, as they change, they're rational, they weigh them well. They'll give you good, sound advice that will help you make good decisions. Whether a rule changes or not, or, I think everybody's going to be surprised at some point along these lines, as things progress. But it's really having that intelligent counsel that has the experience, or if they don't, they will know the right questions to ask, and not get too sucked into that performative culture of just saying things and then doing something else, or giving somebody advice knowing that maybe it's not in their best interest. So I think that that's number one, is you have to have the people, that have the knowledge base and also have the integrity to help you through just navigating it. Also, I think a lot of people, at least in the soccer world, you'll have club coaches, club directors that, give you, hey, write emails and contact coaches and tell them you're interested, tell them something about their school, somehow, engage them so that they take interest in you. And that's going to be how you get recruited. Um, those things are important. You want to write schools. I'm not saying that you don't do that. However, there's a game within the game, and only some people know the game within the game. Some people don't even really acknowledge that it exists. Maybe they're not plugged into it. But like with anything, there's a lot of who you know. There's a lot of navigating situations and navigating opportunities that writing some emails it's not gonna get you through. So you have to have that counsel, but you also need to have just advisors that can help you. And don't just say, if you write emails, then you're good. I like to liken it to applying for a job. It's really your first job you're applying to. If you write an employer an email, say, hey, this is me, I'm here, this is what I do, are they going to hire you? There are other steps you need to take. There's going to be a process that transpires. Do people know the process, or do they just know that you write an email and then you cross your fingers and you hope you get a job? That's not exactly how it works. It's very similar when you're being recruited in college.
How much, like, I didn't know the process for getting recruited in high school. I was like, oh, yeah, if I'm good enough, they'll find me type thing. But it's like, do you recommend sending footage and like recording games in high school and doing all that stuff to put yourself out there and to maybe show the university what you do?
Yeah, I mean, you still want to do all those things. You still want to have the emails. You still want to have the film. That's really step one of, I mean, 10 or more steps. So
Post it on your social media and
totally. No, I mean,
something go viral, and then it's like, oh, these universities are now sliding your ES.
right. No, that's a real thing that I think is going to continue to grow. Part of the positive aspect of athletes having more agency and ownership of their name, image, likeness is that, and social media coming into play, is that if you make a 2-minute reel of highlights, you can put that up yourself. You don't have to rely on a club to do it. You can get that film. You should have access to film. You can clip it how you want. You can distribute it how you want. You can put it up on YouTube. You can get it on Instagram. You can DM coaches. Like, there are different ways to do that. And I don't see that becoming less. I see that really accelerating as we move forward, as coaches become more aware, and frankly, as some coaches retire and younger coaches move in that grew up in that culture. But you can put it up in any number of places, and coaches are going to be able to see it. So those things coming together so that athletes have the ability, whether they're being promoted by a coach or their parents, or nobody's doing anything for them. If they want to do the work, they can get themselves out there.
Mm. Now walking through your shift of coaching players to now coaching your clients, yeah, what went into the decision of like, leaving soccer finally after all this time and to fully go into real estate?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, there was never gonna be a perfect time. It's something that I love. I still love the sport of soccer. Obviously, I'm in broadcasting. I run camps. I don't see me completely leaving that space. I still advise a lot of people in the soccer space as well. I get calls really every month from parents who are trying to navigate something or want advice on the things that we're talking about here. And they know that if they call me and I know a lot of the answers, I by no means know all the answers. I can direct them to places where they can get the information. Um, I can do that in real estate too. That's kind of the just flipping the page and now moving into that space. Um, know the industry, know the area, Oregon and Washington, selling in both. But I know a lot of the answers. I don't know all of them, but I know a lot of people that know a lot of answers, like yourself, on the lending side. Um, so it's really about giving people good information and then helping them to really pursue what they want to pursue moving forward.
Yeah. What do you see with the market this year? I guess kind of shifting into real estate.
Yeah. Uh, I thought about it so much at the end of 2025 and where we're going, and it's a really interesting time, and it's a great time. I mean, starting this year, we're already seeing multiple offers on properties. People are ramping up and not just wanting to list with me, but industry wide. People are kind of saying like, okay, yeah, I'm ready. And spring's coming. I'm ready to list my home, which they do every year. But this year's a little bit different than I'd say the last 3 years, being 2023 through 2025. A lot of people are leaving the industry in our space just because 2025, 2024, those were known as harder years.
Yeah.
I mean, and I understand if you got into this in 2021 and thought that that was the way this works and that you could list a house and you get 10 offers and then that's it. That's how a transaction goes. You're going to be surprised by 2025.
You need post to sell, be like, hey, I'm a realtor, and like 5 people DM you. Oh, but now it's like, oh, payments are high.
Yeah,
Values are also high. Like
interest rates are high, inflation's high, all the things were high. 2026 shows a lot of normalization of those things, the indicators that you want to be positive, to lean on the real estate space and invest, are indicating very positively. I can't think of one right now that's not trending in a direction that tells us that real estate is a great option right now. And so you see that with people getting into the market, you see that with buyers wanting to buy, you see that with people wanting to list their homes. You see that already in late January with multiple offers on homes. So 2026 looks like we're moving forward in a very positive space. And I saw this morning, the S&P 500 just went over 7,000 for the first time.
really.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of things are still cooking, and I think we're getting a lot of help also from rates starting to come down a little bit,
Yep.
as you know.
Yeah. Rates are like over 1% lower than they were a year ago now.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the peak last year they were 7.5 or higher. Now we're down in the low sixes, and so that's definitely helped affordability. The number is like for each 1% that rates come down, it adds about 10% of buying power to people. And so like yeah, we've seen rates have come down. Inventory has increased. I believe the number is like 14% year over year. And we've seen prices stabilize and come down a little bit. I think some of that might just be people listing too high to start.
Yeah.
But
We saw a lot of that in 2025.
yeah,
And I don't want to blame either the seller or the, real estate agents out there. I don't know what side got land on, but
someone bought at the peak,
totally
have to sell
they want to recoup.
higher to like try to make, and then also to pay the realtor and like do all this stuff. So
Tough math.
yeah. So unless you bought during, 2020, 21, 2022, you might not have a ton of equity in your home, but obviously over the long term, real estate appreciates. But yeah, much more normalized, like rates are lower, values are a little bit lower now. So, but the expectation for the rest of this year is that rates are going to hover from 5.9 to 6.2 in that range.
Yeah.
So this is the new norm, as you mentioned, like a normalized market.
Yeah. New Fed chair. A lot of
Yeah,
things.
what happens with that stuff?
It
There's
sounds like
variables that can change things, and rates could drop quicker. But then does that lead to appreciation, then ramping back up?
yeah, I feel like the commonality that keeps coming back is that out of the candidates, the consistency is that rates are gonna come down. Just don't know how fast and when.
And how much? Yeah. Because So like Trump announced, $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities being bought by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And I made a video on this, but the overall mortgage market in the US is $21 trillion. So $200 billion is less than 1% of the overall mortgage market out there. So like, although it's a big number, like
Yeah.
realistic how it'll affect interest rates it might reduce interest rates by like 0.15 or 0.2%, which would get it from 6.2 to 6,
Yeah.
which you might not even feel a difference. So like, they're trying to do things, but unless there's like big changes that happen, we're probably going to see things settle where they currently are at.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me that there's been cautious movement of rates, not doing it too fast, still paying attention to inflation, taking those things into consideration. But as we trend forward, as other market indicators have been very positive, and then a new Fed chair comes in that seems to be more favorable to rates going a little bit lower. Whether that's quick, whether that's significant, I think that's dependent on who, and again, other factors that will transpire over the next year and years. But overall, it's very positive.
What advice would you give to someone that's looking to list this year, maybe compared to the prior years, or if there's any difference?
Honestly, in our market right now, hurry up. Inventory. Yeah, I mean, inventory obviously has gone up over the last few years, but also, um, I don't believe it's as high as it's going to be when we get to May or June. And then you're going to be coming on market with homes that haven't been sitting through what was a kind of difficult September, October. And then obviously the market generally is slower in the November, December holiday months. But getting your home on market, especially, I mean, there are some home types, styles, and locations where there isn't a lot of inventory still. I mean, I have a listing coming online in February here shortly, and yeah, I mean, is there inventory? Yes. Is it exactly like this home? No. Is this home really what people look for in that neighborhood? Yeah. So it's kind of one of one, even though inventory may have gone up. So homes that fill these certain niches are very important right now in this market, and I see them starting to trend, going pretty quickly. And honestly, we're already seeing it with multiple offer situations, which we really haven't been seeing over the last few months.
And a good point is that, it makes sense for you to get started sooner than later because a majority of the appreciation that you see on a yearly basis starts in the spring
Yeah.
and goes through the summer. So if you can get into a house with whether you're selling or buying, get into it as soon as possible in the year, and then you can capitalize on the potential appreciation the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is I truly believe this is one of those years where getting ahead of it is better than kind of jumping in the middle of it. Unfortunately, for people that listed in maybe late August through September, October, and then into the holidays, a number of those homes have been sitting. It's more common to see days on market much higher than we're, I guess, accustomed to in previous years. And I think people now, after 2 or 3 years of this, are a little bit more used to it. Like, oh, the home's been on the market for 60 days. It's not like crazy anomaly it would have been in 2021 where you'd go, absolutely, there's something not right here. It's just kind of the way the market's been. Some houses still went very quickly on market. Some houses have been sitting for a while. And there's also been that balance of homes have been, frankly, some have been overpriced. People wanted to track with appreciation, or they bought in 23 and the appreciation hasn't been there. Now they need to sell their home, and they want to clear realtor fees. They want to clear other fees. They want to clear, all the things that you have to take care of when you're selling your home.
You want a down payment for the next place.
You want a down payment for the next place. I mean, you've got all those factors. And so obviously people who bought in 2021, 22, they've done extremely well. We've just got this little blip, and that's the way real estate is. It's not necessarily always a short game. It can be, but it isn't always. But if you hold over time, appreciation's there.
How can people contact you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram.
Okay.
Instagram direct messages, always my phone number, but I'm easily found online. Anybody can Google me. Not like Kurt Signetti. I'm not that important, but you can Google me. And then email Laura Schott realestate@gmail.com.
Awesome. Reach out if you have any questions, real estate, soccer, anything sports related. We're happy to help.